Right, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video. This video is a bit odd because it's not really me showing you like new plants or anything interesting in that sort of aspects. But I recently, as you all know, I recently got these two new Sansevierias and noticed that the Sansevieria moonshine, this one, which is a lovely large plant. I noticed it was planted in coir, so I did want to make a video of transplanting them, but then I thought, well, I don't really know what I would talk about whilst doing that, and it would just, I thought it'd be a bit boring, so I didn't. And I transplanted them last night. No, the night before. That doesn't matter anyway, but I transplanted them, and it was a very interesting experience, and I thought, damn it, I should have filmed this because it was a really good example of how you pot things and grow things correctly, and how you pot things and grow things incorrectly, and inevitably, if I didn't transplant that, it would die very quickly. So quickly I'll talk about this one first. The Sansevieria, this one is the Silver Flame. I was really impressed. This sounds so stupid, but if you know, you know. I was really impressed with the potting media this was planted in. Let me get rid of that glare. Because as you remember, I'll try and insert a picture or a clip. The pot was bursting out where it was growing and was sending up new shoots. I'll put a picture here of when I got it out of its pot. You can see all the roots. It's crazy, really healthy, like an ideal picture of what you'd want it to look like when you're buying it, or what you should expect. Maybe not expect, but what you'd ideally like. So as you can see, there's new shoots coming up and the roots look crazy. The soil, you can see it looks like I'm looking down because I've got my iPad here with the picture, so I know what picture to insert. Anyway, you can see the soil looks like it's got like grit or sand mixed in with it. The soil is falling apart as I've taken it out of the pot, so you know it's not compact. The roots are growing freely, readily, so that's a really good example. And that is one single plant, this, and it does have two little upward growths coming from the soil, which I can expect to see within maybe a month, sprouting out of the top of the soil. And then I've got a picture of the whole plant, and it just looks really nice, really good example. Then we move on to the Sansevieria moonshine, which I wasn't surprised. I was surprised with how compact they had packed that in there, but it's understandable, as I explain, why they packed it in so tightly. So as you can see from that first image, there's like no roots compared to the previous compared to this Sansevieria. There is absolutely nothing in there. Now that could either be because they have potted them up and wanted to ship them out as quick as possible, so maybe it hasn't been sitting in a nursery growing, because a lot of stock they transplant and leave it for a few months to grow and develop a good root systems for that pot, so that when they are distributing, traveling, etc., the plant is secure and doesn't wobble or come out of its pot. So, but as you can see here, the root system has not developed. I thought either it could have been because they haven't grown it on for long enough, but then as I felt it, it was so compact, because like I presumed in one of my previous videos, I'll insert the clip here. And it looks like it's been potted. If you can see, it looks like it's been potted in like practically 100% coir, like coconut fibre, which is interesting. I'll definitely be repotting that into some multi-purpose compost. It is 100% coir coconut fibre, which is fine, and it's good because it's an alternative to peat. So they're clearly, the grower here is clearly trying to be more environmentally friendly and growing in coir rather than in peat, which I applaud. That's good, but you need to do it right, and if you do it wrong, the plants are gonna die. So this was so tightly compact. I can't describe to you how tightly compact it was. I watered this a few days ago, like maybe a week before transplanting this, and the coir was still wet, where it just holds on to that moisture. And the problem with growing in coir, it does not hold on to nutrients. It will just leach the nutrients. So it's not a good growing media. It's a good addition to growing media, but growing in 100% coir, unless you are irrigating feed into it constantly, it's not going to work very well. But the problem here is compaction. The it was so packed, so tight that the roots could not grow, they couldn't penetrate it. And then if I go down further, sorry, if I show you another picture here where there's actually 3 plants in that one container, so where it looked like one really healthy plant, I thought that they would all be attached because they shoot up new shoots. So I thought, oh, this has been growing in this pot for a long time, it's gonna be a really nice healthy root system and plant. But no, it was 3 individual plants that had been crammed in together, and that's why they compacted it so tightly, because obviously no root system, top heavy, they would have come out, they would have fallen, it would have been a disaster. But as you can see in that image, they have hardly any roots per plant. So now they're planted in here and they're still wobbly because they really don't have a root system. Let me move this Sansevieria quickly. So they're all in here. I've spread them out. I didn't plant them into separate pots because I don't really have the space, but I've put them in this nice large container and they all have a nice bit of space there. And they're so wobbly in their pot because I've pushed it down so they're secure in there, they're not going to fall, but if I knock them, obviously they'll fall. And I noticed the leaves, as I looked closer at them, they're not that, they don't look like they're taking up a lot of water, which is completely understandable with that root system. So I've put them in a nice aerated soil mix. I've put a lot of perlite in there, and it is multi-purpose compost. I did try and take off a lot of the compacted coir from around the roots, but I didn't want to disturb them too much because they have such little roots. If I would have knocked them all off, because of how much foliage this has, the transpiration rate would be so high that they would just end up dying or declining at least before they get better. But I wanted them to stay as they are, and I'm going to rush now to take some leaf cuttings of this, because if I reduce the foliage on there, it's going to be better for the volume of roots, because when you've got no roots and a lot of foliage, the plant's going to dry out quicker than it can take up the water. So, and then I've got another image at the end just of what was in there. I pulled out, it was so compact, and as you can see from this picture, it is just coir, and you can see little bits of dead root in there where the roots had actually started to rot. And this could have been where I watered it and it hadn't drained, because it's like a sponge. Coir is like a sponge. You can squeeze it and it will just all drain out, whereas if you've got a nice compost mix that has perlite or grit and stones in there, you can squeeze it and it's free draining, so it's drained by itself. You don't, like, not much moisture is going to come out when you squeeze it. Whereas this, you just grab a clump and just squeeze it and it'll just pour. So that's not a good growing media for these plants that like to dry out between watering. So I think partly the root rot was to do with that, but I'm not blaming myself because I recognised that was a bad media and I was transplanting it as soon as I could. So I'm not really sure of the purpose of this video. I'm not really, like, I don't know, it's just like sharing my experience and showing you why you do not compact a water retentive soil media around a plant such as the Sansevieria, because it's going to die. So I hope this was interesting to some people. I'm worried about my Sansevieria now because you know how much I love this Sansevieria moonshine. I'll be able to bring it back just fine. I'm going to keep it in quite a bright lit spot, but not direct sunlight. They can handle direct sunlight, but I don't want to stress it any more than it has been stressed. I'm not going to be moving it around because I need the roots to kind of just do their thing and get established in there. But what I would say, if you are searching for Sansevieria, unless you're like me and you buy because you love the plant and you know you can save it, just look for pots. If you're buying Sansevieria, look at the soil, make sure it's not 100% coir, and if it is, just poke your finger in there, check that it's not super compact, give the pot a squeeze. If you can see that it's got side shoots growing out of the soil, that's good, because that means the root system is nice and established. So look out for that. Just a word of warning for everyone, just because if I didn't know what I was doing with this and I didn't know anything about soil, that I would end up leaving it in the coir and it would just die very, very quickly and I would not know what I've done wrong. But compaction is such a big killer, especially if it's coir, because it's just not going to drain freely. Anyway, my throat is hurting from all this talking. I will keep you updated on the health of my Sansevieria, and it should be just fine. And once it's established its root systems, I'm going to transplant these into 3 separate pots so that they can spread out individually. Let me bring this one back up. So that was my little, I don't know, would you call it story time experience? I don't know, but this one, like, I couldn't be happier with that. So yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Leave it in the comments if you've had a similar experience, or just if you have anything to say on this subject. It'll be interesting to hear other people's stories, because I know this happens so often. A lot of growers are in it for the money, which all growers really kind of are, unless it's a small scale, but that's just such a good example of people that don't care about the health of the plant. They just want that turnover, which I understand, but people need to be aware of what they're buying and how long it's going to last if it is kept in that media. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope this was enjoyable, and I'll see you in my next video.